All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. I want to welcome you all on behalf of the Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research. Alhamdulillah, this is an exciting day for us because we've been anticipating sort of releasing this curriculum to the public for a very long time. And alhamdulillah, it comes alongside a lot of other exciting things that Yaqeen is releasing to really nurture the Muslim identity. And inshallah, I'm just going to talk about the overall of Yaqeen, and then try to leave as much time as possible for my esteemed co-panelists, inshallah ta'ala, to talk about really the practical implications of this and what it means for us. So alhamdulillah, Yaqeen is 3 years old, and the word think tank does not resonate with many people in the Muslim community. So in many places that I've been to, people will say, when is Yaqeen going to take students? When can we send our kids to come study at Yaqeen? Do you guys have a university? You got a summer program? You got this, you got that? And we say, no, look, we're a think tank. They say, okay, do you do online courses? We're a think tank. What does that mean? As a think tank, we are not in competition with any other organization in the Muslim community, but instead we're here to service the Muslim community to be more able to serve humanity. What that looks like is, well, for one, all of the content that we generate, alhamdulillah, is free and open to the public, but it's also targeted so that we can help other organizations and institutions that are filling important voids in the Muslim community do the best job possible, inshallah ta'ala, to really move forward these ideals that are so important to us. So Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research is a nonprofit research institute, and we have two ways in which we approach the question of doubt in Islam. And with obviously the stated goal of taking people not just from doubt to conviction and belief, but to a place of contribution. One of them is more narrative-based. So there's a lot of misinformation about Islam, as we all know. It comes out in the form of long papers and sound bites that are meant to shake faith in this beautiful religion of ours. And we do a lot, alhamdulillah, to publish academic work, and then to take that academic work and to break it down into a bunch of forms of content that can really dispel those myths about Islam and also tell the story of Islam in the most beautiful way, in a way that's academically substantiated and true to our Islamic tradition. And so we make these infographics, we write these papers, we make these infographics, we make sure that we optimize in the Google search results for social media to really change the narrative about Islam. But the more important one is identity, because at the end of the day, if you're able to neutralize the negative narrative about Islam, who are you going to push forward to be able to actually tell the story of Islam? And it's one thing to just say that, we need to undo the effects and the impacts of Islamophobia and, all the negative information about Islam in the Muslim community on our children. It's another thing to say that, look, we actually want to produce confident Muslims that can go out there and challenge any environment, no matter how hostile it is, not just be unchanged by the environment around them, but be active agents for change in a positive sense with their faith deeply rooted in their heart, with everything around them. And so what this looks like from a strategy perspective for us is that while we're making the media stuff, we also have a strong emphasis on curriculum and toolkits and different ways of packaging those papers, those infographics, through a curriculum team of experts so that we can facilitate the proper understanding of Islam through the institutions that exist in the Muslim community. And sometimes, actually create the spaces that are needed for people to be able to foster that strong identity in Islam. And so what does this look like for us? Well, for one, we study voids. And so we study the doubts, we study voids. When we launched Yaqeen, we did a survey on doubt, mapping out doubt in the Muslim community, which points to the real issues that young Muslims in particular have as they're hearing, obviously we're products of our environment, as we're hearing the constant attacks on Islam. Young Muslims themselves have developed doubts. So really identifying those doubts is very important. So constantly doing qualitative and quantitative research to actually come up with a proper guided study on, and a proper study that can guide us so that we make sure that we're addressing the issues that need to be addressed. Now, when you look at our studies on doubt, and inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be doing a lot more of that. you know, if you just take the most important issues, the top 10 issues or the top 5 issues, and you look at what's typically spoken about in a masjid, typically spoken about, you know, through an Islamic school or through a Sunday school and through some of the institutions, a lot of these issues don't get talked about. And if they do get talked about, they're certainly not being talked about in a way that counters a narrative and produces something that's significant and really allows Muslim youth to proceed confidently with their faith. And so we studied the gaps, right? The gaps in the community in terms of topics and what we need to address to anchor Islam in the hearts of our youth in a way that's productive, in a way that makes them active contributors and really roots Islam deep in their hearts. So that's sort of the gaps as far as the subjects are concerned. Now, as far as curriculum is concerned, and as far as the institutions are concerned, typically when youth go to Islamic schools or when they go to Sunday schools, which are more prevalent in our community, you have more young people, obviously, that would go to Sunday schools. You know, the types of topics that will be covered, which might be really good topics and important topics, might not be addressing all of the relevant issues. So, you're typically getting qasas al-anbiya, the stories of the prophets, which are fundamental and important. You might be getting the basics of tahara and the wudu and salah, which are fundamental and important. But the reality is that, as kids move on from these places, they're going to be challenged in many other ways. And they probably already have questions that they're either too embarrassed to ask, or they don't have a proper avenue to ask and have those questions answered. And so Yaqeen wanted to make curriculum that starts there, right? And inshallah ta'ala, even we'll go earlier once we're capable of doing that. And so if you think about our expanded learning products, we just released something called Conversations, which is meant to facilitate discussions in your living rooms, amongst your friends, in your book clubs, whatever it may be, right? Your MSAs, but an easy way to actually converse using the topics that are covered in Yaqeen. And that creates the safe space in many situations, or it helps guide the spaces where these discussions are already taking place so that people can talk about these things. A parent can talk about it with their kid. A group of college students could talk about it. High school students could talk about it. The point is that it's a very easy way to make all of the research at Yaqeen accessible for conversation. And alhamdulillah, it's only been a week and we're already seeing an incredible response from the community about the benefit of conversations. We had conviction circles, which we launched with the national partnership with MSAs and young Muslims and mass youth and other groups, where conviction circles could be held at seminaries or masajid or university campuses in focused 8-week modules, so that there could be a study group format where you have a facilitator, you have facilitator support from our side, and all of this content is, again, made free so that people can actually study these concepts at a deeper level. And so if you think conversations, once you get into conversations and you get serious, inshallah, you move on to conviction circles. But now with the institutional part of this, so we're launching masjid resources as well, inshallah ta'ala, soon. We already have a lot of masjid resources, but we're becoming more focused toward masjid resources. But now towards the Islamic schools and the Sunday schools, inshallah ta'ala. This curriculum, and I'm going to let Sister Tesneem and Brother Habeeb talk about this, inshallah. This curriculum is not meant to replace everything that's already being taught. It's meant to supplement it and to tackle some of the issues of belief or doubt or contribution or ethics or history that might not be spoken about in curriculums as they exist today, and to supplement them, inshallah ta'ala, and to help make them as strong and as relevant as possible to where we can cultivate that Muslim identity that we're looking for, inshallah ta'ala, from these generations of Muslims that are coming through these spaces. If you think about Yaqeen and other institutions, what we're trying to do is we're trying to give the content and the material necessary to all of those fundamental institutions in the community, whether it's a masjid or an Islamic school or an MSA or a media organization or a policy organization, to be able to have the important content, relevant important content at their disposal, inshallah, so they can be most able at what they do. So alhamdulillah, we're very proud of this product. The expanded learning curriculum team have worked on this for a very long time. We've piloted it at several schools, and inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be developing it along with our research, inshallah ta'ala. So as our research develops, we're going to continue to develop more and more curriculum, inshallah ta'ala, to make this as accessible as possible and to make our institutions as able as possible to cultivate that strong identity, inshallah ta'ala. So I'm going to go ahead with that, inshallah ta'ala, and hand it off, inshallah ta'ala. And Sister Tesneem and Brother Habeeb will talk about this curriculum and how you can make the most of it. And I pray that it's of benefit. And I ask you not just to make benefit of it or to benefit with it, inshallah ta'ala, but to make dua for us, inshallah ta'ala, and to give us the important feedback so that we can continue to bolster this curriculum, inshallah, so that we can help those institutions that are doing such vital work in our communities and cultivate that identity together. So jazakumullahu khairan. I'll hand it off, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulul Kareem. I want to first thank Sheikh Omar Suleiman for starting us off. So just want to kind of go ahead and begin. And for just many of you, just for you to know, I myself is a Sunday school product, went through the preschool all the way to 8th, 10th grade, then taught Sunday school, was an administrator in Sunday school, and alhamdulillah, I had the blessings after leaving the public school to be an Islamic school administrator and taught religious studies. But at the same time, also had the opportunity to be part of a youth group, be a facilitator or leader of one of those youth groups and halakas. So giving that experience, I really wanted to make sure to remind everyone who's here, from educators or teachers, this is not in any form to start a new curriculum. I want to get that very clear, because ourselves at our own school, we have different publishers that we work with. But the idea, when we've spoke with the Yaqeen Institute and worked with the team and the ulama and the scholars, the idea was to build a supplement or resource or a toolkit to help facilitate some topics that might not have enough information in maybe one of the publishers, or maybe a topic that has not been talked about, but is being talked about maybe in classrooms and now the teachers didn't have the right resources for. Yaqeen Institute has taken that initiative to talk about those questions, those social issues in areas where kids have doubts or need clarification, because now more than ever before, when kids have concerns, they're going to Sheikh Google. We'd rather have them go to Sheikh Omar Suleiman, but they're going to Sheikh Google. In that Sheikh Google could be various individuals, some who might know the background of the faith, some who might use it in different ways to convince or trick kids to make them have not a good understanding of their faith. So this was something that's very important. And then the idea of where does it go and who are we trying to target was middle school and high school. The first batch is to high school students, 9th and 10th graders, but the idea is also middle school. And even that, there was a discussion. Why? Because we realized in the lower grades, kids are just trying to understand their faith, get a strong sense of identity, learn information about the deen. But now the implementation of the deen really starts when you reach the age of puberty. But as they're trying to build their Muslim identities, there are also other areas, other environmental factors that play a part, where now there might be having some questions. So this is why they've also played a big part in saying, wait a minute, how do kids learn? Research shows that kids, 50% is what they read and hear, what they see and they hear. So it's so important that what they see or what they're reading is so important for them. So we wanted to make sure, Yaqeen Institute wanted to make sure, is to have packets or information or resources done by scholars. So not just individuals who might say, well, I know a little bit about the deen, but individuals who are scholars, work with researchers, work with practitioners, educators, youth directors, youth group leaders, and saying, hey, let's put things together. Because sometimes our scholars might have the content, but the practitioners might have the context. And so having that relationship or that marriage to come together to write articles where now the teacher has resources, but then also toolkits and lesson plans for them. Say, wait, how do we take what from these resource packets are the objectives? What are the questions that we should be asking them? What are some thought-provoking questions that we could ask them, where they could do some reflection piece? So this became the next step that they decided to take. So when we know that 50% is what they see and hear, research shows that 70% is what they discuss, what they learn from others. So that made sure that the discussion points also were very important. So you will see in some of these packets, which are I think 4 that they're going to be launching and many more, but we want to get individuals to try this at their school, give us feedback to how do we make it better and say, hey, this worked. We've given many objectives. So there's several objectives. You don't have to go through all 6, 7 of the objectives for every packet. You could say, you know what, these 3 objectives maybe are really focused for these students that you're dealing with. Because all throughout the United States, you have different kids at different levels. You will also have different kids with their understanding of the deen at different levels. You will also have teachers at different levels. So the whole idea of this packet is to make sure that we have questions, information, lesson plans at all different levels, from a youth group on a Saturday to a full-time school to maybe a weekend school, and say, you know what, we have our curriculum, but maybe for these 2 weeks, we want to do these topics that kids have been asking about. This might be a great opportunity. Like a topic like, why does God need to be worshiped, right? Or proofs of prophethood. I want to know more about it. Maybe I was too scared to ask my religious teacher, Islamic studies, our Sunday school teacher, because they might talk to my father and say, you know, your son asked a question that really concerns me. So the whole idea is that we need to make sure that there are these internal discussions that kids have on their side, on their Google chats, but making sure that we've heard about this. Many scholars who have visited, traveled, have give us information about concerns. Researchers have done research and found out, like, where are the questions that kids are coming with, what are their concerns, and bring these answers through proper research, through ulama, working with the practitioners to come and hopefully be beneficial for everyone. So that also comes into, like, what are some of the things that we would need from you? I know Tesneem is going to give you a little more breakdown of the packet, but for many who are educators, youth directors, or youth leaders, or weekend school teachers, or scholars who work with kids or teach young youth, we want to have you try this small unit curriculum resource packet and give us feedback and what you thought went well, what didn't go well, or what you think we could do better as we tweak it. Because the idea is not to just stop with 4 or 5. There's another one on honor killings, right? Kids ask, like, well, what does our faith say about it? Why does it happen in the Muslim countries all the time? So we want to have information that's proper information, clarify the religious aspect of it from the media aspect of it to just what kids might be getting information from the internet, and help have them have a stronger conviction of their faith. So from the education perspective, we will be, after Tesneem gives you a little breakdown of exactly how this packet is, it is very important for us to have you individuals, and the biggest key, educators. I've been working the nonprofit for the last 20 years. It's free, F-R-E-E. So we want to remind all of you that inshallah ta'ala, this is all free, and may Allah bless the Yaqeen Institute in trying to providing these resources to kind of help make our kids stronger in their faith, but even as us adults, because these packets are not just like for young kids. I've read them even for adults. It is a great opportunity for parents to read, so you maybe have an opportunity to answer questions that your kids might be asking. Or even as adults that you are going through these discussions, because the idea of the faith, it doesn't just be challenged by shaitan at 13, 14, 15, but all throughout our lives. And so hopefully, with understanding that this is a resource packet, we're not going against any or competing against curriculums. It's focused for middle school and high school and even college. It's dealing with a lot of the social issues that we're going through. It's having where it takes care of some of the content of where they get to read research, but at the time have a lesson plan and resource packet and questions and assignments that they could do to help solidify that information. And then at the same time, we are trying to talk about topics that these children are dealing with in a more proper, in a very structured way. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you who have jumped onto this webinar and are making the intention to help educate ourselves, our youth, and our future generation. May Allah bless you guys. And then I'm going to give it to Sister Tesneem for you all to have a better understanding of how this packet works, and thank all the other educators who have helped with writing these lesson plans, and the scholars and the researchers coming together. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Tesneem, and I'm currently serving as the Director of Expanded Learning for Yaqeen. Basically, what my department does is we take all of Yaqeen publications and we we put them into different formattings, different ways that they can be used for teaching, for discussion and learning. And of course, one of our biggest projects and most exciting projects is this very curriculum. As of now, I know there's a lot of questions that are popping up, and hopefully we'll be able to address them later in the Q&A. I just want to go over a sample of our work so you can all get a better understanding of what exactly that looks like, who it's catered for, and when you see the formatting, you realize that it can be used across settings. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and walk you all through that, inshallah. But just real quickly, as I get that loaded, this is for high school right now. So we are starting off with high school, but eventually, inshallah, the goal is to be able to expand this to work for a younger audience as well. So inshallah, if you are coming here for middle school curriculum and knowing that this is high school, you can expect also, inshallah, in the future, hopefully in the near future, this will be expanded for all age groups. But for now, we're starting off with high school. And so this is what a curriculum unit will look like. Basically, what we do and what we're going to continue doing based off of continuous feedback, working with you as administrators, as school teachers, as youth directors, in terms of improving, is that we're taking, as Brother Habeeb mentioned, we're taking Yaqeen publications and we're creating curriculum units. So that entails creating objectives and also creating a narrative, a flow in which the whole thing goes, it builds up on one another. That being said, as was mentioned, you can use certain lesson plans individually. If there's certain topics that you really want to be able to address more deeply, more thoroughly within your class, and that's something that you're not really sure exactly how to do or you want some guidance, that's where this curriculum unit comes in. So as you notice on the title page for every curriculum unit, we have here what's a suggestion, right? We have here it's grades 9 and 10. Now, for the most part, our curriculum units will suggest 9 and 10 as what we would consider to be the most basic level, right? And so some curriculum units that are going to be dealing with a little more complex topics might suggest 11 and 12, just in terms of what we expect that age group to be aware of, to know, and to have experienced. But if it does say grade 9 and 10, the assumption is that it would also work with 11 and 12. And all of these can be tweaked. We give you a lot of detail. We walk through, extra examples. We give you extra worksheets, everything like that. But we know a lot of you guys are experienced teachers. You've done this all your lives. And if you guys want to just go through our curriculum unit and take what you find a benefit, modify different sections, that's all well and done, great for us. And we just want to know that information. So share with us what worked better for your class, what didn't work as well. And so that's, again, something that we want to be in a continuous feedback loop with our users, and something that we really look forward to being able to not only share this and make this accessible and free for all, but also hopefully get everyone's feedback so we can continuously improve, inshallah. And so as you can see, I'm not sure if this is popping up for you all, but the first curriculum unit is about 29 pages. And so that includes really everything you'll need in terms of all 3 lesson plans that are included for this curriculum unit. Includes, as you see on the table of contents pages, unit overviews, the objectives, the content standards, and almost all the information you'll need in one PDF. As you can see on the top, and something that I can briefly show later in this webinar, is that each lesson plan does come with supplementary material. Again, if you decide to use that and you find that beneficial, then feel free. If not, you are more than welcome to modify. But we have everything here at your fingertips for those who have nothing prepared, or have never engaged this topic and want these ideas, we want everything ready for you. We're doing the work for you, basically. So as you can see, and this is something that, again, is not necessarily directly important, but just to give you a sort of an overview, you'll get these supplementary documents alongside this main curriculum unit. So with that, I'll go ahead and show you what you'll see at the beginning of every single unit, which is the overview, right? What is this? What are you expecting out of this topic? Why does God ask people to worship him? What are we going to be discussing? Here are the different ideas. And then based off of that overview, and again, this is always tied back to Yaqeen publication, so we include a link to that. As you can see, when I put my mouse over, it becomes a hyperlink. So everything will directly take you to the Yaqeen website with all of our documents there. And then we have our learning objectives developed for both cognitive and affective objectives. So we want to be able to engage student, thinking, and also their affective side. So their emotions, their values, their attitudes. You want both spectrums to be engaged. And then, of course, content standards. The content standards are, as of now, a mix from different states and different subfields. And inshallah, that's something that we are looking into working on to sort of specify moving forward, and potentially creating our own standards in the long run, inshallah. And then we have our read before you teach section. And this section is going to tell you exactly which publication. Just a reminder, this whole unit is based on this publication. If there's any supplementary material that our Yaqeen publication has, which alhamdulillah, a good number of our Yaqeen publications do have. You've got a behind the scenes video that you can watch. You have an infographic that you can go ahead and review that breaks down these concepts. And so again, these are all going to be embedded in the unit for you to easily access. And then general FAQs, right? So, just different things that might come up in your classroom, struggling issues, reoccurring issues. These are some suggestions that we offer at the beginning of the unit. How can I navigate a tough discussion? How do I steer tangents, etc. And this section, by the way, is something that we would love to expand if there's something that we find that based off of your feedback, we find a reoccurring issue or reoccurring question. That's something that we can eventually expand. Now, and I'll mention this briefly here and hopefully expand during the Q&A section, but I did see in the chat box, there was this question of, well, is there going to be training, right? Is there going to be something to walk us through this? We are looking to have a full training portal and workshop in the long run, inshallah, hopefully in the next year or so, but that is part of the goal, part of the plan. As we continue to roll out this curriculum, we'll provide additional resources to be able to make sure you're most well equipped to be able to teach this. You have someone to ask questions to walk you through this information. And so that is all, inshallah, a part of the plan. And I'll go through the one lesson plan as a sample and give you just a general idea of what one lesson plan looks like, and you'll get the gist for the other lesson plans. But they all look the same in the sense that they're all set up with the same format. You have first your overview, what is this lesson going to be about, give you a heads up, and you have your essential questions that you're going to be dealing with, as well as the objectives based on the objectives that were mentioned in the overview. So every lesson plan has about 2 to 3 objectives that are broken down throughout the entire unit, and key vocabulary, as well as the content standards that match this lesson plan. And then for stage 2 of each lesson plan, you'll have the learning plan. And I think what most people are genuinely curious about is the time, right? So every lesson plan is set to take a maximum of 1 hour. So we're imagining here, this is happening per classroom session. Now, during our pilot program, we did have a couple teachers give us feedback that, well, it actually took us, 60 minutes or 2 class sessions or whatever. Again, this is not something that we're expecting, hey, you're gonna do it exactly the way we have it set up, right? So if you feel like this topic is really hitting home with my students, or this topic is something that we've been meaning to discuss and we wanna elaborate with, and it takes you 2 class sessions, it takes you multiple class sessions, that's entirely fine. What we do suggest is that, not necessarily even suggest, but the reason why we have this time limit, this time frame over here, is that in order to be able to get to the whole curriculum unit without sort of, tiring your students of this topic, or because of constraints of the school schedule, etc. We recommend you finishing it in this, that session. But again, it's extremely flexible. We're doing this to make this experience easier and more effective for both you and the students. And so whatever reaps the most benefit, that's what we're looking to achieve, inshallah. So you have your supplies and equipment. So if you have a presentation that comes with this, so as I showed you earlier, this particular lesson plan does come with a presentation, so you can have that loaded. We'll give you a heads up in the supplies and equipment section. We recommend, of course, if you have a slideshow, that you have a projector, computer, Wi-Fi access, all of that. If there's an activity that requires poster boards, Post-it notes, pencils, all of that, this will be in this section here, so you're well prepared beforehand. And then you have the activities. So you start off with an opening activity, usually just something to get the topic up and rolling, as most of you all, I'm sure, are familiar with, as well as the learning activity. And then finally, you'll have the conclusion and consolidation, the closing activity. So for each one, we go into very explicit detail in order to, we're assuming that this is going to be used across experiences, across schools, across ages and backgrounds and everything like that. So, this is going to be used by also someone who works at a weekend school, who might just be a volunteer who's in college, or it's a youth director first day on the job. So when you see all of this detail, it really is there just to support the experience, to be able to walk you through it as an instructor. So we go into a lot of detail as, okay, we're giving you this activity and this is the reason why. So you are aware, fully aware of how we thought about constructing these activities and the purpose and the goal behind that. So when you're executing these activities and you're having these students engage in these discussions, you know where to guide and lead that discussion. If you are more confident in this topic, or you've got plenty of experience and you know where you want to take the direction of the discussion or the activity, again, that's something that we would welcome and would love to hear more about. And so very quickly, this is really how it is set up. It walks you through slide by slide, step by step, and all building up to make sure those objectives are fulfilled at the very beginning. And as I mentioned, we have the last section is usually consolidation, just a wrap up, as well as homework. And so we provide worksheets, whether they're the in-class worksheets that you're going to be walking your students through as they go through the presentation, or also the homework that you can assign, you can modify, you can do as you see fit for that. And finally, for every lesson plan, you'll have the stage 3 is the assessment, and that includes sort of like a screenshot of what those worksheets look like, so you can keep track of, you know, what these different assessments entail. They're numbered, everything's organized in that way to help you keep track of things. Okay, to wrap up on the sort of the sample curriculum unit, I just want to scroll through really quickly. Again, they all look the same, the lesson plans, in terms of having the same stages, same format, feel, so you know exactly what to expect and how to walk, how you can walk through the material without any surprises. And then finally, at the very end, what we have is a references and resource section. So, you know, there was an ayah mentioned, a Quranic verse mentioned in the presentation. Well, we've got it here in case you can't remember what slide it was, or you don't want to open that slide. You know, there's a video that you're going to be watching this lesson plan. If the hyperlink wasn't working, we have a full link here just in case, so you can type it out. Of course, these are all also hyperlinks, really just things to collect. And so what's great about this page in particular is that, hey, you know, I've taught this topic in my Aqidah class, my theology class, why does God ask people to worship him, time and time again. I know exactly what I'm doing, but it'd be nice to have, you know, switch things up a bit. I want to include a different video. I want to include a different approach for this year's class. If you wanted to go download the curriculum unit, again, these are all free, right? So you can just come take what you like and use whatever you find of benefit. So if you want to come down, I'm just going to go to the references and resources section, and I want to see, okay, what other ayats can I incorporate? What other takes can I use? You can just come straight down here and click on these videos. Oh, okay, so let me use this video for this next class. They've provided everything here for us. And then if you'd like an explanation, or if you'd like an activity in alignment with these videos, you can go then through the lesson plans, and we organize it hopefully very clearly so that, okay, I clicked on this video from lesson plan 1, let me see how they use it. You can go right back to lesson plan 1. I think I've shared quite a lot with you all now, so I'll go ahead and leave my screen open for now. I'll scroll all the way back up to the top, and we can go ahead and transition to taking questions. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And if you all just give me a few seconds. So one of the questions that we received was, you know, can this be used for college chaplains? Can this be used for people other than the classroom? Absolutely. So this is something that we can really, if you walk yourself through the material, it tells you step by step what to do. If that's the setting that you want to have with your students, your college students or whatever, that is something you can take. So the way we understand this curriculum is sort of like a top-down approach. You have a teacher, you have students, you have someone facilitating, guiding this. Now, there's other, alhamdulillah, we have many resources within Yaqeen. So if you find that the curriculum is most effective for your group, you're more than welcome to use it. We also have, again, as mentioned earlier, conviction circles, conversations, plenty of different ways depending on who you're engaging with. And Brother Habeeb, feel free to chime in at any point if you'd like to add anything. As for the list of topics for units, what's going to be released, and we're going to be releasing all of our first few units over the winter break once our new website is launched. So you can look forward to that. And also, if you registered for the webinar, you'll also be automatically registered to receive updates for the curriculum, inshallah. So you'll get the exact notification date for then. But the first 4 units that will be released with the launch of our website is why does God ask people to worship him, environmental ethics on Islam, how to be a mindful Muslim, and the proofs of prophethood. So we start off with a whole range of topics that really explore various different approaches that we have within our mission at Yaqeen, and give you a little dose of spirituality, of theology, of contemporary issues, environmental ethics. So hopefully you'll get a good taste of that then. Is the high school curriculum fully developed? So as Brother Habeeb mentioned, this is a supplement, right? We're not providing a full curriculum. This is not something that we're going to schools and say, hey, take our curriculum. This does everything for you guys. And just get rid of everything you've been doing. Absolutely not. Continue on with your curriculum. We want to encourage that. We want to encourage those relationships that you've built, those foundations you've created within your school systems. And these are topics specifically addressing themes within that fall under our mission at Yaqeen. But every curriculum unit does have 3 lesson plans. As of now, there are 4 units. There will be 4 units available come next month, and we plan to continue that really for the long run, inshallah. And so we're estimating at least 2 years worth once we are really in the full swing of things to last you 2 full years of high schools. And then based off of our constant conversations, our constant feedback from you all, we will intend to continue to develop this and improve this. So inshallah it can last 4, 5, 6 years, just give you a full range of different topics. How is this curriculum different from the Conviction Circles material? That's a great question. So the Conviction Circles is more discussion based. We created Conviction Circles with college students in mind, with older, with really 18 plus years of age. And the reason is because they're expected, in a conviction circle, you're expected to read the publication on your own. You're expected to be thinking about these things beforehand and then come together and discuss as a group. Whereas, as I mentioned earlier, the curriculum is more top-down approach, where you have someone really walking you through step by step with this material that's broken down much more thoroughly than conviction circles, which provides guiding questions, sample reflection questions, sample discussion questions that can be used depending on that conversation. What's the qualification for the teacher who will teach the class? Nothing really. And that's why, that's why it's so detailed, because we're expecting people from all different backgrounds, all different skill sets to be using this. And so if you're confident and you don't need those details, you can implement it the way you find most beneficial. And if you need that extra hand, that's what we're here for. And as I mentioned, we will, inshallah, in the future, have an additional team member in our department that will be able to you'll be able to reach out to at any time. They'll be hosting online office hours, just a person or a resource that you can go to ask these questions, to say, hey, like, I'm going over lesson plan 1 for unit 10, and I really don't understand how to explain this to my students. I don't understand how to answer this question if they ask me this. We'll have someone, inshallah, available as a resource to be able to ask those questions directly to. Will there be individuals who can consult with regarding the implementation of this curriculum? Oh, I guess I just answered that. Yes, inshallah. Hopefully within the near future, but we will keep you updated on that. Make dua that we find this process is easy and we can get that launched soon, inshallah. When will the curriculum for middle school be available? Inshallah, again, in the near future. Our focus is to get this out, get this perfected, and then based off of that feedback and based off of the work we can do to make sure that we're going in the right direction, we will then simultaneously build a middle school curriculum. We've already begun discussions in terms of how that might look and how that might feel, but as of now, our focus for 2020 is perfecting the high school curriculum.
Hey, Tesneem, can I just jump in there for a second?
Absolutely.
So, for any of the educators who do teach middle school, we're going to try it for one of our grades. So if you're interested and you want to try and you give us some feedback and say, hey, that 9th, 10th grade curriculum, hey, it was something that we were able to, or we had to tweak it here, that would be great for us to get some of that feedback too. I think it is something that, even though it's 9th to 10th, but if you want to take a challenge and say, look, we're just going to try one of the packets, and your teachers look at it, they read it, they feel comfortable and say, you know what, I could do this. I could maybe tweak it here. I understand that level. I taught it for a few years. We would like to see if it is something that you felt like, wow, so, we get feedback that, that 9th, 10th grade packet, it worked with the 8th grade too. Hey, 7th grade, yeah, only 2 of the objectives out of the 5. That would be great information for us to have, because then that also that helps us take even topics that we've already written about and try to even condense it even to a 7th, 8th grade form. And you giving your feedback will help us do that. So I don't want it to be completely like, hey, don't look at it. If you're a 7th, 8th grade teacher, read those packets too. I think, it'd be very beneficial for you. And then maybe you might see that it'd be beneficial for those students that you're dealing with.
Jazakallah khairan. That was a very important addition to make. And again, it just says it can be used with different people, with different experiences. It can be used for different settings. In fact, in our pilot program, we've had a couple of people say, hey, by the way, I use this for my middle schoolers. I just, tweaked it this way and I modified it this way, et cetera, et cetera. That's great. You're more than welcome to do it, but please do share that information with us so that we know that when we go to build officially the middle school curriculum, we have that advice in mind. As for determining the need for this, for the topics we're addressing in the curricula, that has been based on a lot of discussion with experts like Brother Habeeb, working with organizations like ISLA, Islamic Schools League of America, talking around with people who've been in this system for years and getting a general sense of how can we take this, what approaches can we take, what are the topics that need to be addressed. And so because this has sort of been our first steps in our pilot for what we've launched so far, this is something that we want to be able to actually engage, to really have in-depth research on in the long run. And so we've talked with our research department actually in doing surveys and doing evaluations on what that would actually look like on the ground to get that information. More importantly, for all of you on this webinar tonight, what you will be receiving tomorrow is a survey with an email link following up from this webinar with a copy of the video, but you'll receive a survey and we want you to be able to answer those questions for us, right? We want you to tell us, what do you think the problem is in your own experiences? What topics do you want to see addressed? What resources would you like to have? All of that. So you will be very critical and essential in terms of determining that need and helping us direct our future work. Brother Habeeb, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that would be good. I mean, the idea of please filling out that survey, because the way what Yaqeen Institute, may Allah bless them, is they want to work with everyone on the ground level to have a better understanding. And what they have a platform is to get the right research and the information, and they have the resources to make it happen. So inshallah ta'ala, please, don't be like, okay, jazakallah, click. But if you could do that, I think they are taking that information and hopefully using that to produce great product and topics we're looking for. I mean, these are and there's several other topics that she hasn't shared, but they are working on and finishing up. And I think that there are things that kids are discussing, what I've seen, and other individuals and other educators and youth directors and speakers that we've spoken to and say, hey, look, these are things that kids are asking. We need to have the right resources for them. So please, sharing is caring. We do need your feedback to move forward.
Awesome. So alhamdulillah, we're getting a lot of questions, so just trying to keep up with this. But someone, just as a follow-up to that question, can we suggest topics that may be needed? Absolutely, please. That's something we would, is crucial, as I said, to shaping the way we're moving forward based off of your experiences. The topic of why we worship God, does this touch on atheism? Yes, it does. It talks about sort of just, well, I won't actually get into detail on that because that will be quite a digression. But I'll put it this way. If that publication doesn't touch on atheism, presumably, then you can rest assured that we will have a publication that will eventually talk about that. And so the way we're moving forward is really asking these essential questions: is what topics do we need, must be answered in a high school setting eventually? And really looking at it from this perspective that once you graduate, when you're 12th grade, you're graduating. When you're 18, you're about to go to college. What do we want someone who's gone through our curriculum to be able to say, I know X, Y, Z, I can answer all of these questions. So really thinking of it in that backwards design of what we want students to be able to walk away with before they head off to college. Does it have student assessments? As of now, we have general assessments, be it formative and summative assessments. We are looking though in the future, inshallah, to be able to expand significantly in that department and having final assessments for every unit. As of now, they are simple assessments at the end of each lesson plan. Can I say a bit more about how the teacher support portal is organized? That is something that is not officially in the works yet, but it is in our plan, in our goals. And I wanted to share that with you because that is something that we've thought of and we know is necessary and something that will be available, inshallah, within the coming years. As of now, there's no official plan or organization until we find just the perfect and right resources to be able to host that. Is it possible to have the Yaqeen infographics as handouts that can be printed? Yes, absolutely. We can work on doing that. As of now, the infographics are embedded within our presentations within the actual units. And if that's something that is more helpful to have them as separate documents, we can work to make that happen. Do you envision this project to grow to include the integration of Islamic values concepts within other curriculum areas? If by that question you mean other fields, other topics, English, social studies, all of that, yes, I think we can imagine that. I don't want to speak on behalf of the entire team, but these are just part of like the very brief discussions that we've had.
And you just signed up for a lot more. That's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if I want to answer that.
No, but I think you want to kind of state like, hey, some of these topics, I think if some of you who are teachers or some studies teachers, you want to run it by their social studies teacher. For example, one of the packets she hasn't brought up, but I know I got to read it. It might be in the future one. It's something like honor killings, which in social studies classes that you have those discussions. So there are topics where we have science and special history, humanities will be touched upon. So I think it'd be really relevant for some of the religious teachers to maybe if you are in a full-time school setting or even in a college setting or even in a youth director, because kids deal with some stuff that they might deal in science. When we're talking about existence of God, some of these topics will be are coming in the future topics will have some correlation with other subjects. So I don't think it's like officially we're doing this, but you will see it that the topics are going to be where it could be some coordinations with other teachers to be like, hey, here's a great reference for you in teaching this subject matter. So,
and if I could expand on that, Brother Habeeb, the idea of, our research as a whole is broadening, alhamdulillah, to not just target doubt and refuting doubt, but really a lot about anchoring conviction spiritually and intellectually, and then talking about Islamic ethics and history. So, what's coming out of research, and alhamdulillah, now we have over 122 papers. What's coming out of research, inshallah ta'ala, is packaged. And so what's being addressed in the areas of research, inshallah, eventually we'll address as much as we can through the various forms of curriculum that we have.
Yeah, Sheikh, can you say that number again? 122 research papers, right? Is that correct?
Actually, 123, alhamdulillah. So we got one published last week.
I wanted an odd number. That was good. No, that's good. 123. No, so may Allah reward you guys.
So a couple more questions we can get through, inshallah. Do most or all the topics have video resources to change things up? As of now, yes. So we have right now 4 units drafted, 2 fully complete, and that gives us about 16 lesson plans or 16 hours of instruction. And everything I've seen so far has really interesting videos, really different, unique perspectives of approaching topics. So I have to say, one of the lesson plans has a Michigan hype video, Michigan football hype video. So go blue. We do incorporate some of that fun rivalry in the classroom. So really different ways to just change things up and explore topics from a contemporary, like normal high school student lifestyle. We know these are things they're watching. We know these are things that they're engaged with. And so we try to make it as attractive as possible in that regard, inshallah. Is this adaptable to a weekend school setting? Absolutely. Again, this can be used across any setting. It's a matter of just reviewing the material and really like so for example, if you're a youth director, I've had several youth programs ask me about this curriculum, and I said, the only really adjustments you would have to make if you are a youth director and if you're doing this at a masjid or something like that is that, instead of having them write down their answers, have them discuss them out loud, or have them, just have it not as, things that would require paper, pencil, and a desk. It's very, very easily adaptable and flexible in that regard. So it could be used full-time schools, weekend schools. It could be used at a masjid with the directors, whatever it is. Okay, so I think the last question I see here for now is, can we share this info with non-Muslim teachers as a resource? Is this strictly for Muslim educators? No, as Brother Habeeb mentioned, no, this can be used, again, across different subjects, across different fields. You're more than welcome to share these with non-Muslim teachers. I think as the example was given, the one that eventually will come out on honor killings is something that is just it talks about larger pictures, larger themes, about Islamophobia, about about hate speech, about things like world politics, all of these different big themes that can be used across the board. And even something like, why does God ask people to worship him, right? This is not, this is like a Muslim only perspective. It's rather relatively general. Of course, we're citing Muslim sources, we're citing Quran, we're citing Hadith, but at the end of the day, we're making very straightforward arguments in terms of reason and theology that can be used in a Christian setting, really. So we're more than welcome to share that. Okay, so it looks like our questions, I think hopefully we've gotten through most of them. So Sheikh Omar or Brother Habeeb, if you guys want to go ahead and add any last comments. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap up, inshallah.
I just want to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless Sister Tesneem for coordinating all this, and then Brother Yaqeen, Brother Omar Suleiman for just, and Yaqeen.
Brother Yaqeen, my new name.
But I'm going to call you that, just kind of like,
Brother Yaqeen.
I think it's there, and I just really want fellow educators, whoever are there, you directors, people who are just working with you, please look into this. These are just some of the ones that are done, but as the Sheikh said, there's other resources and that research that's been done. I think that will be on the website too, just for reading, just for more knowledge for us when we're dealing with kids. So I think may Allah reward this, and please make dua for this. And inshallah, we really want some feedbacks. And everyone who's in the Midwest and Chicago or any Islam school I've gone to, you better be using this or try this at least once, and then see where it goes from there. So Jazakallah khair, and then shaky of the sheikhs, take it away. Sorry, and it's part of me. I apologize.
Habeeb of the Habayib. No, Jazakumullah khairan to all of you. I think, alhamdulillah, we get excited at Yaqeen when we're able to publish anything that's a benefit to the community. And I'll just share with you all a story that there was an imam of a masjid in New York who had a group of 300 Catholic women visit his masjid and got asked the question about Sharia and Hudud, and he just pulled up the video that we have explaining Sharia in detail. And he was grateful that it was able to, alhamdulillah, speak to so much for them. We're trying to generate as much as we can, inshallah, not just be a reference that you go to every once in a while, but really be a resource that you interact with through your institution and even on an individual level as much as possible. And that's why when we hear back from you, we really just want to know how we can be more beneficial to the community, inshallah. We don't ask for anything in return except for your du'as. Of course, sometimes your donations, those are valuable too, but your du'as are priceless, and your participation and you're benefiting from this is the greatest joy to us. So Jazakumullah khairan to all of you. Jazakumullah khair to Sister Tesneem and her team for the incredible work that they're doing. Alhamdulillah. And Brother Habeeb, who's like an all-star. Just Google Habeeb Quadri, all right? He wins so many awards. I don't know. He might receive a Medal of Honor from President Trump. I don't know if he wants it or he wants to wait till 2020. But may Allah bless him and bless the entire team. And please make dua for the entire team at Yaqeen. Wa Jazakumullahu khairan.
Ameen, Jazakallah khairan for both Brother Habeeb and Sheikh Umar's participation and insight, and for everyone participating. Just a couple of final reminders before we close off. You will be receiving an email tomorrow, inshallah, with a survey. Please do fill out that survey. And if you have colleagues, you have friends, classmates, family members who are in this setting, who are educators, who are youth directors, please do forward that to them as well, so we can get as much feedback in this process and continue that continue that communication, continue that feedback loop. So once you guys do begin implementing our work, and there's something that you don't like, there's something that you love, share that with us. We are, again, just doing this to make everything more beneficial for the community at large, and we only want to perfect it in the process. And if you are a school who wants to stay connected, you want to have more resources, have a personal, affiliation or whatever it is, you can reach out to our Director of Partner Development. If you're in the US, you can reach out to Ali Fiaz. His email is on the website. And if you're in Canada, you can reach out to Omar Khan, and they will be able to assist you and answer any other questions that you might have. And with that, we'll conclude. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.